Sevendust is the most underrated band from the nu metal era, and on this episode, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's riff of the week. Sevendust may not be one of the big bands that comes to the front of your mind when thinking about the nu metal genre, but in my opinion, they're one of the best. When we talk about the genre nu metal, there's certain big bands that come straight to mind. You got bands like Korn, Linkin Park, Slipknot, and yes, Limp Bizkit. Those are kind of like the big 4 of the nu metal genre. But in my opinion, there's a tier of bands just underneath that, not in terms of quality, but in terms of popularity that we should talk about. We're talking about bands like Nonpoint, Static X, Cold Chamber, and my beloved Sevendust. This is popularity. They may not have reached the same heights as Korn and Linkin Park, but we still need to talk about them. For me personally, that tier of bands that we just talked about is better than that upper tier, just from my personal tastes. And at the top of that heap is Sevendust. I think they're the best of the nu metal genre, and here's 5 reasons why. Number 5, consistency. Sevendust is the most consistent band out of all of those bands that we've talked about. Well over 10 albums, no breakups in between, and every one of those albums is good. They're kind of like the AC/DC of nu metal. Every album can't be their best album in their catalog by definition. However, every album sounds like Sevendust and therefore is a good album. I've never been dissatisfied with a Sevendust album. Sevendust has never chased any trends. They've never felt the need to reinvent themselves. They've never gone experimental or tried to go pop or anything like that. You always get a quality product with Sevendust. They've got a new album called Truth Killer coming out this Friday, July the 28th. I've only heard one single off of it, but I have full confidence that it's going to be a good album because if past is prologue, I know that I can rely on Sevendust. When a band reaches veteran status, most all of them have released disappointments. At some point in time in their career, they've tried to pull something off that we didn't like. Sevendust is one of the few remaining veteran bands that I'm willing to buy one of their albums before I even hear it, because I know what I'm going to get. It's like Sevendust, Cannibal Corpse. That's about it. Number 4, heavy versus soft. Y'all know me. Y'all know I like it heavy. The heavier, the better. I love the song Splinter by Sevendust. I could name a million other ones that are just crushers that I absolutely love. But when Sevendust does do a soft song, they do it well. They never do a power ballad. It's never lame or cheesy or cringe. When they do a soft song, it's a good song. It's like a work of art. It's never, sentimental or like this is going to be our big single. They just actually felt that way and they wrote a soft song. And you don't need to look any further than Angel's Son. What an incredible song. It's one of my favorites of theirs, and it's rare for me to like a band's soft song more than their heavy songs, but Angel's Son is just such an incredible song. They've got other great soft songs like Got a Feeling, which is almost exclusively sang by their lead guitar player, Clint Lowry. And speaking of Clint Lowry singing, number 3, they've got 3 singers. I love the variety of sound and vibe that they're able to achieve because they've got 3 singers. A lot of bands, they've only got 1 singer, and often when you listen to a long stretch of that band, it can start to sound same, especially when in the studio, the same singer is recording all the harmony parts as well. So not only is the lead melody the same guy's voice, but then the harmony parts backing up the lead melody are still the same guy's voice. And it's the same harmonic strategy because it's the same guy doing everything. It sounds same. Meanwhile, you've got bands like Mastodon who have 2 lead singers, so they can get these vastly different vibes from one another, and it creates this dynamic and diverse sound. Sevendust has 3 singers. We all know that Lejean Witherspoon is an incredible vocalist, but Clint and Morgan Rose also are instrumental in the sound of Sevendust. It wouldn't sound like Sevendust without their 2 voices as well. In a minute, we'll get to praising Lejean, but I really want to talk about Clint and Morgan Rose here as the auxiliary singers. I would argue that Morgan Rose's screaming is a fundamental part of Sevendust's sound. He's always adding punch and lift and emotion by screaming behind Lejean's lead melodies. Meanwhile, Clint is always handling the more subtle cleans, and he's often doing the harmonies behind Lejean, and having a different voice creates a depth to those harmonies, and having a different style of vocalist makes different harmonies as well. So that creates the unique vocal sound that Sevendust has. And now that I've brought up Morgan Rose, number 2, the drumming. Morgan Rose always lays down the tightest grooves. He has the tastiest fills, and his accent work on the cymbals is a masterclass. I would argue he can stand up to the best drummers in the genre. Some people would argue that maybe Joey Jordison or Jay Weinberg is a better drummer than Morgan Rose. I'm not a drummer, so I can't argue that on technical details. I think he's at least as good, and he sings at the same time. Point Morgan Rose. Number 1, Lejean Witherspoon. In my opinion, Lejean is the best singer in the nu metal genre. Some people would argue for Corey Taylor. He's no doubt an incredible singer. Some people would argue for Chester Bennington. For sure, he was supremely talented. But for my money, Lejean has the most soulful voice. Listen, they did a Soundgarden cover. I don't hear any other nu metal bands that would be able to pull off a Soundgarden cover. And in my opinion, The Day I Tried to Live is the best Soundgarden cover ever recorded. And then we've already talked about the song Angel's Son. Lejean's performance on that was emotional and masterful. He doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves as a vocalist. When Morgan Rose screams and then Lejean follows that with a soulful and emotional belt afterwards, there isn't a better vocal combo in all of metal. And my man can growl too. But what do you think? Do you like Sevendust? What's your most underrated nu metal band? Are you looking forward to their new album, Truth Killer? I want to know. Let me know in the comments, or you can hit up my social media. All of the links are in the description. But now let's talk about the riff of the week. I foreshadowed this one earlier. This week's riff of the week is Splinter. It's one of the heavier Sevendust songs, and I absolutely love it. I'm stoked to pick it, this week's riff of the week. Let's get hyped for Truth Killer, the newest Sevendust record coming out this Friday, July the 28th. And if you want to catch another great Heavy Metal Philosophy episode and you're on YouTube, just click right here. If you're listening audio only, links in the description to my YouTube. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.